Yeah.
All right, Kasey, it's nice to see you.
So nice to see you.
I was on your show a couple of weeks ago, which was super, super fun. Kasey's Korner. You guys can check that out in the show notes. We'll have everywhere you can find Kasey: Instagram, Facebook, especially YouTube, because that's your channel. But I wanted to come on to talk to you about intuitive eating and your relationship with food, weight, and your body, because I find it so interesting to talk to people who aren't immediately in this space, but that are like super interested about it and do talk about it, especially when they have a big following like you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, it's interesting because you say that has a big following. I realized that a big chunk of my following kind of came when I was sharing a lot of weight loss content. And I was doing keto for, goodness, almost 2 years. And it worked great until it didn't anymore. And that's what I tell people, like, it works until it doesn't. And your body just changes, your body adjusts. And unfortunately, that's kind of what happened for me. I also started to see really negative effects in different areas of my health as well. That was kind of, I attribute a little bit to keto. But anyway, I had this, this new group of followers that came in, and they were all so into the weight loss space. And then I started to feel like I was letting them down a little bit when I wasn't sharing that anymore, because it wasn't as important to me. And it was making me feel a little, almost like a little bit of an imposter, right? Like, I'm not going to keep sharing this content about my weight loss journey when I'm not okay with sharing about a weight loss journey anymore. I started to also realize I was getting some feedback about sharing before and after pictures, and how having a negative connotation to that before sometimes is someone's goal that might be looking. And I just started to think about a lot more of the psyche around it, and like the mindset around it, where I don't want to make anyone feel like they're not welcome somewhere or that they don't fit in somewhere. So to have any sort of comparison started to feel really icky to me. So as I started to share more of my ditching diet culture journey, and just a little bit more about learning myself about intuitive eating through great resources like yourself, that's when a lot of people started to engage as well, saying like, thank you for sharing this, because this is information that we needed, and felt like I had to bounce from diet to diet to diet and realize that there's other ways of kind of approaching and healing your relationship with food.
Right. And you know what? It's kind of genius. And it was unintentional that you kind of got them in and interested and knowing, liking, and trusting you with the keto stuff. But then you're like, just kidding. We're gonna go in this direction. And maybe you did have a couple of people that were like, maybe I should look at the way that I'm dieting.
Right.
So
and it's funny
because people.
Yeah, I learned that just in talking with other people that were sharing similar content at the time, is that people sometimes follow along to see if you're going to fail, right? Like and I think that I'm learning that that's a trend in social media, that people will hate follow you just to kind of wait for that moment that you're going to give up on something, to see if you're actually going to make it. And usually it's people that, sure, maybe some celebrities have that as an issue, but it's usually, people from high school that want to see, oh, what are you up to? Like, is she actually going to stick with this, or whatever it is? So for me, it was that. It was like, I felt like people were waiting to see me fail, and leaving the keto lifestyle on the table, I felt like I was failing. I felt like I was failing at a diet. I felt like I was giving up, So kind of getting a better relationship around food and in body image too, in general. Because I kind of learned that I was almost using the food excuse, or I was using food as the excuse that like, oh, I'm always hungry, or, oh, like I need to change this about what I eat. And then I kind of realized that it was a little bit more about my own body image that I was uncomfortable with, rather than the actual food that I was consuming and the way that I was consuming food. So once I figured out that that wasn't really the excuse anymore, it helped me kind of heal a little bit more of the mindset side.
I'm so glad that you said that. As someone who isn't like a counselor or like a coach, like myself, like, because sometimes when the professional says it, like it's like white noise, but like you've gone through it, and that you know that it, talking about the food as if it's the problem, it's not the problem. It's something deeper. It's something internal. And I love that you mentioned that, you know, we go through this and we feel like if we don't see it to our goal weight or that after photo, that we have failed. Like if we get off the diets, we have failed. But what we've really failed is society's version of what, you know, the goal that they had set for us.
Right. And it's hard. It's very hard to kind of wave that body positivity flag and that body confidence flag. It's really hard to wave it in today's day and age. And listen, I live in Los Angeles. It's even harder to wave it out here. There's so much comparison. There's so much keeping up with the Joneses. There's just a lot of pressure around body image. I understand no matter where you are, but I personally feel it very heavily here.
Sure.
That, you know, I needed to get myself over that hurdle because I knew it wasn't the food anymore. Once I realized that, okay, I actually really like to eat healthy food. So what is it deep down that's actually the hurdle right now? Like, what is it that's making me kind of spiral? And I was not eating enough. I was eating food that, you know, I was doing intermittent fasting, and I was counting calories, and I was doing diets that were dressed up saying they weren't diets, but they were really diets. And I was doing all those things. And I was like, okay, you know what? If I just stick to the principles of eating real, whole, nutritious food when I'm hungry, stopping when I'm full. That was another thing. It still is a struggle for me with the fullness and hunger cues, because I grew up, and I know so many like of our generation grew up with the Clean Plate Club, where you were guilted into eating everything that was on your plate, and you insulted someone if you didn't have seconds. You insulted someone if you didn't try the dessert that they brought to the party or something like that. So for me, it's been a little bit of reprogramming for that.
Yeah, a lot of the recovery is reprogramming for sure.
Yeah.
What was your, other than the Clean Plate Club, which I think really speaks to a scarcity mindset? It's, you know, there are children starving in Africa narrative that we were given. How else was your relationship to food, your weight, and your body growing up? How did you see these things in your family dynamic?
So I'm an only child, and yeah, are you?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like there are definitely there's a negative connotation to only children, and I look at it as, listen, we just grew up a lot faster, and we are more independent and have really great imaginations because we had to figure out how to play by ourselves.
So true.
But as an only child, I mean, I was the only kid in the house, so I saw. And my parents were my only frame of reference, really, right? So my mom, I think, had always had, she's definitely smaller, she's on the thinner side, but she was very critical about her body. And I think what was the most impactful, and she and I've had these conversations now that I've been more open about, like, you know, the things that have affected me and my confidence, my body image growing up, but I can vividly remember watching award shows together and watching the red carpet. And my mom that was like our fun thing that we did, was pick apart everyone's red carpet look. And I can just remember the comments of like, oh, I can't believe she wore that. Or like, oh, like she looks terrible in that. I think that kind of sunk in. And I can also remember, I mean, my dad and I would go to the YMCA to like work out. And it's funny because now we recently joined the one here in our town, and I bring Kennedy, and I go into it with so much more awareness now of the way that I'm incorporating, or the way that I'm putting the narrative behind workouts, right? So for my family, workouts were always like a means to an end. It was, oh, it's after the holidays, need to go back to the gym, or oh, it's almost summer, need to go back to the gym. So for me, I'm really trying to just make that the norm and not the excuse, or not, you know, of every so often kind of thing. So she goes to the kids club, I go get an hour workout in, and it's been really great. And she just kind of loves that after school routine. But for me, I remember growing up and it being like a chore, right? Like having some sort of workout routine was a punishment, because it was, oh, well, what did I eat over the holidays? And kind of having that, and this is around, I don't know, like 12-ish, 12, 13 years old, you know? So I think that there was that clean plate club mentality at the dinner table, but then also like need to work it off afterwards.
Right.
You know, so you almost had to like meet the consequences and pay for your dinner.
Right. And it's things that we all internalize either consciously or subconsciously, like watching the Oscars with your mom and picking apart all the outfits. It's all fun and games until you start saying, well, are people comparing me? Are people critical of me the same way? And then like the mindset of working out, is it consistent fun, or is it punitive sometimes? You know?
Right.
Yeah, totally. Now you say that you give a dual coast take on wellness with your show and your platforms. Can you, and I think that's so fascinating, because we do have that image of LA being this like more superficial, kind of like Hollywood type of take on wellness. And we know that, you know, the term wellness has already been hijacked by diet culture anyway. So you say the dual take because you're from the East, you're now in the West. So can you explain the difference between what you've seen on both coasts?
Okay, I don't want to offend anyone. Let's see. So this is just my personal experience as far as how I grew up.
All opinions are strictly Kasey's and not
all these
finally
opinions are mine. Alana is not responsible.
I am not responsible.
No. So I think that for me, so I grew up in Massachusetts. I live here in California for the past 10 years. And I would say that the emphasis on health is much stronger out here. There is so many more resources, so much more education, so much more accessibility. That's the thing. I think that what's fascinating to friends and family who come out to visit is the accessibility to great food. There can be full vegan, like so many vegan restaurants, or so many health foods. You know, we have in one plaza in our town, there's 3 grocery stores. One of them is like a Sprouts farmers market. The other one's a Gelson's, and the other one's a Vaughn's. So, you know, you have a little bit of, you have a lot of variety. And then there's a Trader Joe's down the street. So there's so much more, there's so many more options out here, I think, is something I definitely see. And I think that there's almost a negative connotation to health and wellness in some cultures and some families back east, again, just from what I observed, where it almost is, they look at health and wellness as being a privilege. Right? Where it's not something that's accessible to everyone. And I get that, because we are extremely fortunate to have so many options here. But I think that there's a little bit of a mentality around, well, I don't know, that ingredient isn't at my local store, so I don't know how I'm going to make that. Or I don't know, it's just easier to stop at Dunkin' Donuts. Yes, I'm throwing that out, East Coast. Just so much easier to stop at Dunkin' Donuts and get something for breakfast than make overnight oats the night before, you know, a few days ahead of time. So it's almost as if I feel like there's a little catching up to do. California. And here's the other thing too. People are happier out here. And it's 100% because of the weather. Okay. I grew up shoveling myself out of snow. That's why we moved out here. I was sick of digging myself out of 6 feet of snow every week. And there's something to be said for, the sunshine. And there's a joke out here. You're like, oh, great. Another 72 and sunny day, because you don't have just those boring rainy days that aren't very motivating. So yeah, you can go for a hike basically every day of the year. You can be so much more active. You can go ride your bike by the beach or something like that. So I think that it's kind of unavoidable to be away from like a healthy lifestyle out here. You almost have to work a little bit harder, I think, to avoid it.
Yeah. So yeah, lots more, nutrient dense foods out there, yeah. Lots of more variety, lots of opportunity for movement. Actually, now that you're saying that, because as I look out at the 45-degree and rainy weather, why don't you just tell me what the weather is there?
It's 84 and sunny.
I swear, like the night, like when spring starts to come here, I'm in Jersey, when spring starts to come and we have that like first sunny warm day, I like the change in my mood is so
right?
marked.
That's it.
Yeah, totally. Now, I know you have a daughter named Kennedy, right?
I do, yeah.
How old is she?
She's 5. She thinks she's 15, but she's 5.
My goodness. Now, how has being a mom and parenting kind of changed your vision of body positivity and what wellness is and what health is?
Well, it's so funny. I think that in the past year, as I've been working so much on my own mindset around body image and positivity and confidence, I am so much more aware of the words that I use and the affirmations that I give and things like that around Kennedy, because it's funny. There's a line, I think, and my husband and I continuously try to teeter on this line where you almost can't give physical affirmations anymore, right? It's almost like, oh no, you don't want to tell the girls that they're pretty, or you don't want to say that looks cute on you, or you look beautiful, because, well, listen, if you throw on a dress, you can't say you look so smart in that dress. Like it doesn't work that way. So there is a fine line, I think as women, as girls, we always are going to grow up with like an appreciation for affirmation, right? Like we're always looking for some sort of, it's human nature. You look for accolades, you want to be rewarded or you want to be complimented. But I try to do it in a very strategic way now. And with Kennedy, she's a girly girl, man. Like today, so funny. She went to school. She had this new bow in her hair that was super colorful. And it was like a headband bow. And she had a tie-dye shirt on. She was so bright and vibrant. And she was like, Mommy, do you think my friends are going to think I look adorable today? And I'm like, well, Kennedy, it doesn't matter what your friends think. And this is kind of the way I framed it. I'm like, if you feel really fun and confident in your outfit, then that's all that matters. But sure as you know it, she steps out of the car. All the girls run to the gate. Kennedy, I love your outfit. That is so cute. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is 5 years old and they're doing this. So, that is starting to form this early. So I'm trying to at least instill the fact that it's not about what's on the outside that matters. But at the same time, I'm not going to shy away or shun any actual, physical compliments. Because I mean, she's fine. It's fine. But as far as food goes and eating, it's funny because I have learned that I'm definitely the lax parent, but also I think that, so my mom was in candy sales my entire life. She was like vice president of different candy companies and everything in sales. So my house always had candy in it, and candy wasn't a restriction because it was around my house all the time. And with Kennedy, I realized that like, for me, I don't have a sweet tooth. I'm much more savory, salty. Like I want chips and things like that when I do pig out or whatever, for lack of a better term. And I will leave candy out. Like I have candy dishes and everything. She'll take one maybe a day, maybe like one little M&M kind of thing. Or she'll say, Mommy, can I have one chocolate? Yeah, sure. But we have friends who come over and the parents are like, you leave candy out? I'm like, yeah, why? Because their kids are handfuls of the candy. And I'm like, well, if you don't, that's the whole thing, is that restricting it so much and making it the forbidden fruit makes them binge on it later. And I kind of realized that in my head, as far as it was, I think for me, because it wasn't a sweet thing, I wasn't being restricted of sweets. But it was more of that like clean plate club. So it was more the scarcity side of like overeating for me, not so much the restriction. But yeah, that's one thing that I try. If she asks for something that's, a little bit of a sweet or a treat or something like that, I make sure she's eaten at least a couple pieces of fruit, whatever it is else that she's eating for breakfast. And then on the way out the door, after she brushes her teeth, if she wants to have one M&M in the car on the way to school, it's fine. Like that's kind of, if that's going to save the sanity and not have a meltdown from the garage to the school, it's worth the M&M.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you approach it this way, because I mean, the proof is in what happens. She takes one M&M because she always knows that they're available. Her friends come over and they're getting it by the fistful because they don't have that. So it's built up. It's the forbidden fruit, like you just said. And the same applies to us. And for some reason, we think it doesn't when we become adults. But if we just allowed all foods, at first, we'd probably do the fistfuls until we finally realized, hey, this is going to be around. I can have this whenever. I'm a grown ass adult.
Right.
And then it won't, I'm still working on my husband for Christmas got me a box of the dark chocolate Russell Stover's assortment. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm still working through it. Cause like I'll have one and then like a couple of weeks will go by and I forget it's in the pantry and I'm like, oh yeah, I have that. And I'll take another. And like, I don't have to sit there and eat like half the box in one sitting because I know they're there whenever. So the pull isn't there anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm trying to make this be Kennedy's mindset as she grows up, because for me, it's still a daily struggle where there will be, like your example of a box of chocolates or something. If there's a dessert that ends up at our house, I will at times like try to eat all of it, knowing, because I'm like, well, today's the day that I cheated, right? Like today's my cheat day. Today's the spoil day. So I need to be good the rest of the week and try to consume everything now. And I know that this is not a good mentality. I know that this is a pattern I need to change. So I'm trying so hard to just kind of, I like verbalize it to myself and be like, it's okay. And I think the other thing, this is like the starving children in Africa comment that we used to get. I've had to make myself be okay with throwing away food, where if I feel like I'm full and there's still half of a dinner on my plate, I have to be okay with throwing it away, or I have to be okay. And I don't necessarily want to, because a lot of people are like, oh, just save it and have it another day. There are some things that, especially if it's a more indulgent meal, that's it. I know I'm having it. I'm enjoying it. I don't want it to become a pattern. I just want to let myself have it and enjoy it on the day. And then one trick that I've actually learned as far as like restaurants and stuff go, because we're big restaurant people and love to eat out. I've started asking for half portions. And the chefs are pretty good. Or you can say like, hey, do you have an appetizer size, or could you make it a kid's portion or something like that? Because then you're not wasting the food that the chef prepared. And it's a little bit better on portions, because like I said, for me, the fullness and hunger cues are a real challenge. So I'm trying to just figure out other ways to kind of break the overeating cycle.
Sure. And I think that's smart because, a lot of times leftovers aren't good the next day, like when you reheat them. So then like, if it doesn't even taste good, why bother? And then you'll have to throw it out. Or, you want the really super indulgent meal, but when we're eating intuitively, we might understand that we might not feel so great after. So we're willing to have like one night of that where, oh, this tastes really good. And I know I'm going to feel like crap after, but I'm just going to do it because it's, it's like, it's time. I just want it.
Yeah.
But then you don't want to feel that, for the next 3 days. So for sure.
Right. Yeah. And I think that there's something too, where especially socially, and as now that we are actually being social again, which is fantastic, and going out to dinner with friends, I was so sick of being the girl who ordered the salad. Like, that's not fun anymore. So order the things that you really want to enjoy and just figure out how to best, or how you can best navigate it, whether it has to be a limited portion, whether it is, sometimes I will actually like carve a line in the middle of my food and be like, here's what I'm bringing home. Here's what where I'm eating now. And I think the other thing too, that's really important that I would love to see be a little bit more the norm is just don't talk about it. Don't make it a big deal. Like, you could say, oh, is there a way, can I just have a half portion? And then you don't have to turn to your friends and be like, oh, there's no way I could eat a whole portion. Or, there's nothing, I don't want to have to eat all that food. Yeah, there's no need to explain it. And I think that I'm learning how many of cues like that growing up actually affected me as well. It actually really bothers me when we're at restaurants or when we're having people over or whatever, and like, oh, there's so much food, or like, oh my gosh, that's a huge portion, or, it's like, just keep the comments to yourself. You can say, wow, everything looks great. That would be much better. Because
Absolutely.
I think that, it forms a little bit of an insecurity around the people that are dining with you. And, you want to be able to enjoy whatever it is that you ordered, or not feel like you're pressured into eating all of this food, because you're not. It's just, I don't know. I think it's probably the way I was raised too. You had to have ample amounts of food because you never wanted to be the party that ran out of food.
Right. Absolutely. Right? Are you Italian?
Everyone thinks I am. No, I say that I'd like to convert to Italianism, but I'm not. I have some sponsors that are willing to be my sponsor as I convert to Italianism. But my daughter's
sponsor you.
What's that?
I'll sponsor you.
Perfect. Yeah. Yes. I need a few sponsors, but no, I'm half Portuguese and half French.
Okay. Just the way that you were talking about like your family life, and I just like,
no, I know.
So I was like, maybe she's Italian.
The Portuguese are very similar.
Yes.
To the Italian.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
I can't believe our time is already up. This is insane. I could talk to you for another few hours, but
totally.
We'll wrap it up with the question that I ask everybody, since this is called the Finally Free podcast. What does it mean to you to be finally free?
I feel like it's ever constantly evolving, but it feels like a weight pulled off of you, because I think that for me, I would spend so many hours a day thinking about food, whether it be preparing for my next meal, thinking about how this meal is going to negatively affect me. Oh my goodness, did I splurge? Is this bad food? And labeling everything. So I think it actually has freed up a lot of time and a lot of mental space for me, because now if something looks good, I eat it, I enjoy it, I move on and fill my time with other things. And sure, I love food because I really do love to cook, and I've been in the food industry and everything. So now the way that I kind of fill that time is preparing the food and making it be something special and making it be a new recipe that I'm trying. And, rather than it feeling like, make it feel like a chore almost,
Yeah. That's awesome. Kasey, thank you so much for being on the show.
Pleasure.
Everybody, you wanna do real quick, it's all gonna be in the show notes, but do a real quick plug on where people can find you.
Sure. I hang out primarily over on Instagram, and my handle there is @it's Kasey Potts, and Kasey with a K. You can also find me on YouTube just by searching Kasey's Korner, and again, Kasey with a K and Korner with a K too.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.